Hi Martin, welcome to episode 69 of Illuminating Rounds. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, Dave. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, you're looking smart today. You're back at
Do you
work.
know, I had my hair shaved, I had a shower, all
Yeah.
sorts of things for a wedding, basically.
Is that happened or it's coming up?
It was not my wedding.
Okay.
This was on Saturday. A friend of mine got married.
Oh, you had a shower for Saturday.
I had a shower for Saturday. Yeah, not for today.
Okay. Now, listen, we do need to keep giving people updates because I know now you have some friends that are tuning in just to find out about you, not about ASL.
Yes, that's true.
So,
Yeah.
what else have you got to tell them? Anything else?
Well, there are people literally cutting down my tree right now. So if you are a friend of mine, you live nearby, and you want some free wood to save me having to pay these guys to chip it up, then come round and get it now for your fireplace. Okay.
That's all right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. That's a
Yeah.
cool. So today we are going to talk about briefly. We're going to talk about Manila. Our copies of Manila have arrived. We're going to carry on with our brackets. We've got the results of the very difficult choice between Action Packs and Pegasus Bridge. Who knew, Martin? Who knew how straightforward that decision was going to be? But more importantly. Hazardous Movement are Chuck Hammond. We've got a great interview with him, and I would say he was on top form. He was a great guy. I've never met him before. I don't think you've met him before. I think
No. I've seen him on Game Squad and places like that, but I can't say that I've met him.
Yeah. Well, it was excellent. We had a really good time. So
really nice guy and really interesting to listen to.
So fast forward all this bit, get to Chuck.
Yes, let's get through the boring bit now, quick.
Yeah, exactly. Although your friends might want to draw the line at
they might want to stop now. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, thank you to all the patrons. We really appreciate it. We are going to come up with a giveaway. HazMo have given us a pack to give away, the copy of their second pack. So we are going to figure that out. 2MO was the lucky recipient of the last one. So congratulations, 2MO. He's got a copy off to him. We're going to come up with an idea of how to win that one at the end of the interview. So wait through to the end of the interview to figure out what you've got to do to win a copy of that. We are midway through our game of Sticks and Stones, which we have not finished, so we can't show you that this time. We're going to finish that. I'm off on holiday. You can see my suitcase is just there. I'm taking Nicole away for a couple of days. So until
you didn't actually check that was okay with me, Dave. You're taking these days off, you know.
Are you not going to come as well?
No idea.
I thought I was going to meet you there. Sorry, that's just my ASL stuff. I'm not didn't bother with clothes and stuff. So okay, right. So we're gonna talk just about briefly about the HazMo pack. We'll do not necessarily a proper review, but we'll go into a little more depth. I think got a little bit of feedback that the last time we went through the scenarios of the first pack of Hazardous Movement, we probably just skipped through them a bit too, and I think we'd like to deep dive on maybe two or three of them. So we'll try and do that.
Feedback, and even remembering some of the reviews we did at the beginning of Illuminating Rounds, I remember we showed the scenario cards and things like that.
Yeah, we've got to be careful not to give away too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. All right, the other thing is our tournament, Martin. We're about to start round 2. So next episode, we are going to go through our game of Sticks and Stones from the HazMo pack, and we're going to do a roundup of all the tournament games from the first round. So that's quite good. That was Wildcat Strike, which is a great scenario. I thought it was a very good choice of yours. And that's that. So where do we start? I guess Action Packs versus Pegasus Bridge.
Okay.
Did you see the results of that on the forums?
I didn't. Do you know, I've just got back from work and there's people chopping trees down in my garden and I've rushed to be here.
Okay. But, all right. Well,
I didn't even have to take a shower. Yeah.
You've had a shower already.
What's the result? I'm excited.
The results were that Action Packs were by far the big one. So you were right on that one.
Yeah.
I got that one wrong.
Yeah.
This time, this is going to be tough. Okay, this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Red Factories or Croix de Guerre, 2nd edition. Now, I'm going to assume that Red Factories is excluding the Red Barricades content because that's already a separate one. So I'm throwing this on you, Martin, because I know you haven't done any, deep dive research into this because you are busy. Red Factories or Croix de Guerre. If we were going to go away for our ASL retreat, Which one are we going to take if we're only taking one?
I know which one. When you put it like that, I know which one I'd take.
Go on.
Red Factories.
You really?
Yeah.
So now that's interesting because I think I would do that too if we were able to devote, for example, time to the campaign. Now the campaign games are allegedly, now there's not a lot of play on them, are all pro-German. They're quite, there's some feeling. I know Craig Ben, very good player here in the UK, was going to have a good look at them. I don't know what the updates are of that. I remember he was going to take a good look at them and sort of see what he thought. But the feeling was they're very pro-German. I wonder if it's a bit like having your favourite milkshake just for the rest of your life. If Red Factories is quite, it's quite Stalingrad-esque. There's not going to be a lot of differences there. Croix de Guerre, you have certainly a whole bunch of scenarios. I mean, I think there's 41 scenarios in that pack. Now, to be fair, all but 7 I think are reprints. I think 7 or 8 are the Denonce scenarios that you get. We started the campaign of Denonce. We got a bit overwhelmed, didn't we, with the bridge lay, and I think that I was losing anyway. You lost a little bit of heart in terms of the administration involved in it. But it did feel like a great campaign in terms of the map and everything. It just felt like, I don't know, if it felt like from your point of view, there was just too much going on to get across that river. And for me, I was dead as soon as you got off the river anyway. So it didn't feel like the effort to reward on that one, which is harsh because the map's great. The situation's really interesting. I think the rules are really nice.
I think the position of the French inevitably feels like that in that earlier part of the campaign game, but the Germans live with that bottleneck, don't they, for the whole of the rest of the campaign game? Because crossing the river is only the beginning, isn't it? It's a bit like Pegasus Bridge. The British got to land and capture the bridge, but it feels hopeless for the Germans when the British are in strength doing that. But so I think I think we needed to play it further really. But there's definitely a management problem of all the vehicles and things for on the German side, and it is definitely disheartening being French because I helped Martin Mayers playtest it, and I was the French, and it was a very disheartening experience. Anywhere you go, you get mashed, don't you?
Yeah.
But it's some very, very clever mechanisms there. It was very interesting. So I enjoyed prepping for that game.
Right.
Really enjoyed that. Actually, I went back to work from the lockdown. I think that was actually what really stopped us.
Okay.
Was we just became more busy.
Yeah. Now, Red Factories, we haven't played a lot of. I've played Second Step. I played against Toby. I should have mentioned I beat him, which shows you how imbalanced the scenario is for that one. The scenarios do feel a little bit out of balance. There's certainly some that are quite swingy either way, and like I say, the campaign game gets a little bit of grief. In terms of obviously, if you're buying a campaign game and you have the red barricades and the red factories, the Red October plus the red barricades equaling the red factories, plus the whatever it is, I think there's 21 scenarios in there and there's 8 campaign games. So, I mean, it's an enormous amount of ASL content, but half it's we're already going to take away because it's red barricades, and what is left is very similar to red barricades. So I wonder whether it's just more of the same, which is more of the excellent Stalingrad stuff that is, from an ASL content perspective. But I don't know whether I couldn't live without it. Like I feel like it's very similar to Red Barricades from that perspective. So my vote would be going for Croix de Guerre on the basis.
There's very eclectic scenarios, very varied scenarios. Now, having said that, I think that's often put us off playing them actually because it's it's a slightly quirky SSR and whatever. But maybe we should do a bit of an exploration of it.
Bridge of the Seven Planets in Croix de Guerre is superb. Stranger in Strange Land, L'Hérisson, I think, which is my most played scenario ever. Those are some
good scenarios, actually.
Yeah, there's some really good ones. So, okay, so my vote is Croix de Guerre. What are you going for in the end?
Red Factories.
Okay, so we stop here. We don't even get to talk about Bridge Too Far versus Hollow Legions.
No.
We don't even get to talk about Battle of the Guards versus Star Kits. Okay, all right, so we'll put that one to the vote. Thank you guys for all your help on us figuring that out. So The other thing that was big news this week for me and you as well is our copies of Manila arrived. It's reversed.
Sword and Fire.
Yeah, it's a big pack. Now, we talked a lot about the Hazardous Movement scenarios cost, and $20 to $30 or whatever for the 10. Admittedly very well balanced and decent scenarios. $93 for Manila. We are getting 6 massive maps. I think it's actually 7 because there's a mini map in there as well. There's 40 pages of rules. There's, I don't know what it is, 10, 12, 14 scenarios as well for Manila. We'll go through. I mean, we're not an unboxing channel, so we won't necessarily go through all of this. I have got a video of the maps. Now, I will say beforehand, every person I think that has ever enjoyed ASL, that has ever had a copy of something like this, the very first thing they do, certainly for Manila, is to get all the maps out, find somewhere flat enough to try to put them out on, and then realise they can't play it. It's too big. The board. There's video now going on, but the play space is 6 feet by 6 feet. All right.
Wow.
It is difficult to get into the middle of that map.
So do you have to have like some sort of a system to sort of hoist you above the board
Well,
so you can like sort of
the same one they use to get you out of bed, Martin?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's now the thing about this is that obviously that not all the only I think one campaign uses most of the map and that's okay, or maybe one scenario or whatever. There are scenarios or campaigns that take part in separate parts of it. Yeah. But Vassal makes this infinitely more playable, I think, in terms of, so, obviously, buy the stuff to have the rules and all the kind of stuff like that, the counters and whatever you need. But Vassal will allow you to play that campaign in a much more manageable,
and leave it set up, which is equally important to managing the size, isn't it?
Exactly. But I wanted to shout out to the value of, in terms of what we're what we're seeing and what we're getting. So we've got a mini map like on the back of the kind of the scenario aid card. We've got the 40 pages of rules. It's the standard kind of
red barricades kind of
exactly, purchase charts,
campaign game,
scenario bits and pieces. But again, 40 pages of that. We've got the mini map. There's a mini map. So this is quite fun. When I first got it out, I thought, the hexes are a bit small. But this is the reduced, like this is the medium-sized map. So this is not the playable one. This is your line of sight.
This is useful to keep on a small coffee table beside the game to record things. Exactly.
But I mean, it's pretty spectacular as in a map to play on. I mean, yesterday I was just sitting there looking at the map, just in awe of it. Like how you picture different kind of things happening around that, and we've got no memories yet of which to see. That's the time you bought the flamethrower there, or you banzaied across whatever. We've got a ridiculous number of scenarios. Now, the only this is a very, very harsh downside. David Roth, who has designed everything about this scenario, this campaign and the scenarios, has designed everything. I mean, this guy is an absolute machine of it's what a lifetime's work or a year's work or whatever. And there's a really nice note in there. He dedicates this to his father-in-law who was captured, sentenced to death, escapes. I mean, it's in this much text, it's an amazing story. So perhaps we could get a chance to talk to him one day. But it's all one scenario designer, and I don't know whether. And again, this is really, really harsh. Sometimes if you've got a collection of people working on, and I appreciate there'll be input and there'll be play testers and everything. Of course, yeah. But if a scenario designer has a particular slant for, a particular style of scenario or victory conditions, we've seen it before with Gary Fortenberry's little bit esoteric victory conditions. Make you work, they make you think about it. Yeah. But they're different. And so I just wonder whether it would have benefited from some other scenario designers having some input into this. That's the only thing I can say without playing anything.
I mean, we by no means know that those scenarios, have a similar sort of style, do we? But it'd be very interesting to if David wants some input at some point,
We'd
to
love
tell
to.
us about the kind of the thinking behind it, because
Yeah.
it's an enormous amount to actually do that on your own. It's an enormous amount of work.
It's incredible, isn't it? There are 25 scenarios in here. So that's excluding the 25 scenarios, excluding the.
I've tried and I failed to write one.
Yeah, well, you did a couple. You did Scrag. You did the
that's right,
typewriters. But it's hard, isn't it? I mean, and we were talking. You'll see the interview with Chuck. About scenario design and things like that. It's hard work. It's, I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
So hats off to David for an amazing achievement of all this. We're going to get a whole bunch of. I think there's 5 or 6 counter sheets, four counter sheets. The usual kind of good MMP style counters. We've got campaign force organizers, and obviously those maps. There's 6 of these maps as well that will make up the the glossy print again. I think we're used to these now. I think these are, everybody worries about whether if we bend them over and fold them they might tear a little bit, but they generally stand up to the kind of the use. And I looked at the size of the map in terms of 6 foot by 6 foot, but it's roughly the equivalent of 36 geomorphic boards. That's kind of how that's the whole play area, to give you an idea of.
I am going to need a bigger plexiglass. That's for certain.
It's absolutely incredible. So I can't wait to play something like that. It's another thing on our to play list. So
I tell you what, I'd like to, instead of a campaign game, I don't know if there's one in there, but there's sort of like monster sort of scenarios, like the sort of last bid and first bid and stuff like that. I don't know if there's one in there, but I'd quite like to play something like that as a change from campaign games. Not that I played a lot of big city campaign games, but I played some.
Well, yeah, we can definitely look to see what the biggest scenarios are in here. I think that's the thing. I mean, we've not played Last Bid and things like that, have we? We've not played.
No. I think it'd be fascinating.
Do you have is there like I think I like the idea of it, and I find that when I'm getting towards the end, I just want it gone. I remember that a couple of times with Hill 621, where I've played Hill 621 2 or 3 times, and it's an incredible feeling to start it off thinking this is going to be amazing, but the amount of debris on the battlefield, the discarded this.
It actually becomes mentally quite hard work, doesn't it? That's the thing with these bigger scenarios. And Hill 621 is puny in comparison to Last Bid or First Bid in order, those scenarios. Puny.
That's the thing, isn't it? I gotta wonder whether I can last more than a day on a whole big scenario. I don't know. I'm just looking to see what the biggest scenario is on here. So excluding the campaign games, they're not massive. They're not massive. So No Safe Refuge looks like to be the biggest one here. Okay. And let's have a look. So that is around about 25, 30 Japanese squads against 15 plus another 20 maybe coming on.
That's actually kind of manageable, isn't it? Really,
that is, yeah. And that's only on one board as well, so one map of the thing. So just flicking through to see if there's ones that use more than one of the maps. So we'll have a quick flick through. There's one with a couple, 2 with a couple. So yeah, nothing more than two of those maps, and so 2 of those maps is still, it's kind of like red barricade style, which is reasonable.
Substantial, isn't it?
Yeah. So but good stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting that out, and again, excellent value from MMP. I think $93 or so or whatever it was that we paid. Is pretty good.
It's a lot of ASL for that $93.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to Chuck Hammond. Here he goes. Brilliant interview. Enjoy, and see you on the other side. Well, welcome, Chuck.
Right.
Welcome, Chuck.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And it's great to have you on here. So...
It's great to be had.
Okay.
I'll take your word for that.
No one's ever said that to Martin before. So your HazMo, your Hazardous Movements, tell us a bit about yourself, everything like that. We're excited to hear.
Well, really fast, I guess. I'm a professor of German at the University of Tennessee, Martin. Married. My wife is the professor of Japanese at the same place. Her office is like 20 feet from here. We always joke that we don't see enough of each other. We have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, 21, 19, and 17. So we spaced it out, planned it just in nice German efficiency, as you see. And I started playing squad leader when I was 12, I guess. So that would have been 1982. And it was bought for me for my 10th birthday, and it looked really cool. But then I looked at the rules and I said, "Oh my God, you need to have a PhD, to read these things, And so it just went on a shelf for 2 years. And my friend Raul Martinez, which is like John Smith, in Southern California, he and I were looking around for something to do, and he's like, "Oh, let's play that." And I'm like, "Oh, it's too hard." And he's like, "Oh, we can do it." And then I realized, oh, you only have to learn, 4 or 5 pages of rules in order to play. And that was it. I mean, we played some war games before that. There were precursors, just like probably with you, with Risk and, some SPI games and stuff like that. But once I found Squad Leader, nothing was comparable,
So
And
were you playing with like kids at school, or were you playing with an older group?
Playing a bunch of my friends, same age.
Yeah.
This was like, what was it, 7th or 8th grade. And we had a blast, and then there was a while when I didn't play. I was at boarding school, not the kind of boarding schools you have in the UK, where they wrap you on your shins with metal, all those things I saw in The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall. Not that kind of boarding school. This was a really kind of. Yeah, this was really kind of a left-wing boarding school. It was a Quaker boarding school, founded in 1799. But anyway, I went there for high school and didn't play for 3 years. And then I got a congressional scholarship to study in Germany for my senior year. Didn't play anything there. And then finally, when I came back, I played some more. And when I got back from officer candidate school, this was years later, 1990, then it really started in earnest. And once we got red barricades, it really started in earnest. We were unemployed, Chad and I. It's really funny because he's a retired diplomat now, and doing pretty well for himself and stuff like that. But I remember when he was a scrub. I remember when he was selling T-shirts at the local mall, and we still laugh at that because he got fired from that job. He got fired from that job for reading Epictetus. When he should have been folding T-shirts. Yeah, it's a hilarious story, but it's actually true. And so we had very little money, but we had all the time in the world. And so you know what that was like at that age, So Stalingrad could stay set up on the dining room table for weeks on end,
right?
And those are the kinds of luxuries that are no longer afforded us as grown men, with families and responsibilities, But yeah, it was pretty intense. And then when Vassal came along, that really. You can debate about whether it saved the hobby. I think it did, but it sure saved the hobby for me. If it weren't for Vassal, I wouldn't be playing at all now. And so yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
What would be your sort of most memorable moments from that career of getting into squad leader and then advanced squad leader?
Oh boy. Probably the fact that we were so poor, when we finally take a break, we would actually look for change under the proverbial, living room sofa, cushions and stuff like that to try and get enough money for a burrito. Which is, for Southern California, that's like what fish and chips would be for you guys. Yeah. A burrito is salvation. Okay, it means you're gonna live on another day. And we'd share the burrito. That's how poor we were.
And
But luckily, we could live with our parents, not in the basement, but we did live with our parents.
how many times?
So it's really funny.
How many times did you play through?
Oh
Red
gosh!
Barricades?
Oh my God! God, that was pretty much my whole life. And then when I'd go to bed, I'd just think about what I would be purchasing the next morning. Which is really funny for a guy who had no money. But I didn't have any money, but I had campaign purchase points, and that was worth a lot. So I can't tell you how many times we played, and we didn't even think about ever designing scenarios. I remember Chad at the time saying, I'm just a consumer, and that's all I want to be when it comes to ASL. He said, I don't want to write any articles, and I don't want to design or anything like that, because I'd brought it up just on the by and by.
Yeah. So do you play anything else? Do you play anything else? No. Well, that was clear, wasn't it?
I play the radio. I play the kazoo. I don't know. I don't play anything else because I guess the reason is I don't know if it's like this with you guys too, but I have kind of a slight guilt feeling with Squad Leader because if I played something else, that would suggest I've kind of mastered ASL, and I don't even know, for example, the beach landing rules.
For example, just to pick one.
Just for example, I know how easy they are, but I've just resisted them for some reason because I'm a bear of very little brain.
Right.
And then caves, I don't play those. And desert, I don't play that. When I think I would move on to another game if I felt like, okay, that ASL rulebook, I've mastered it. But I feel like there's always something else to learn. And I think what scares many people away from the game is precisely what attracts people like you and me to the game.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the learning never ends.
Yeah. And you've taken that in your profession as well, presumably. You're a professor, so
German.
You're enjoying learning and teaching and things like that. Have you taught many people how to play as well?
That's an excellent question. I've taught a few select people because I don't want to waste my time. So I'm very careful. I mean, if there's somebody who presumably ostensibly wants to play, and you can't imagine that person playing anything more complicated than Hungry Hippos or something like that, then you're really just spinning your wheels. So I make sure that person is really steeped into World War II, like a World War II fanatic, like I was, because you need an imagination for the game. This isn't what's that video game, that first-person shooter that they always play, that World War II, Call of Duty and stuff like that. Yeah, the action is taking place in your head. Even though we don't think of it that way, but it's taking place in your head. And so, right from the beginning, we're talking about someone who needs to be cerebral, to a certain extent, for lack of a better term. And so, for example, there's a club in Vienna, and the leader of that club his name is Jeff Crowder, and he is also from San Diego, and we've also known each other for quite some time, and I taught him how to play. And so he is in Vienna, he teaches English there, and he's been teaching people how to play. So it's kind of great, that kind of claim to ASL paternity. In ASL terms, I have grandchildren now. Perhaps even great grandchildren. Yeah, I'm like Abraham, almost, and these players begat these players, and these players begat these players, so
you're getting back into the boarding school.
Yeah, exactly, boarding school. I also went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., and this is also funny because Chad was in Washington, D.C. at the same time. He went to American University. And this is when he was studying international relations. And so for a year, we lived together across the Potomac in Virginia. And we played a lot, which sounds funny because I mean I was taking 21 credits, and he was a graduate student and all this other stuff. We really shouldn't have had time to play, but there were plenty of times, especially when the weather was inclement, where we'd look outside and we'd be like, this is a pretty good day to skip school, wouldn't you say? Get off the map, and that's we actually spent an inordinate amount of time playing squad leader, but we both graduated, so there's good. That. Yeah, exactly.
So were you part of the mailing list debates about the half squad rush or the half track rush in Stalingrad and things like that on Red Barricades, or did that?
I was part of a few exceedingly dumb debates back when they were on, what were they called? What was that thing around 2000? It was like a precursor to Facebook. What was it called? I forget what it's called, but I was on it.
Right. Okay.
It's something that the French still use or something. Yeah, some shit like that. It was even more primitive than MySpace. I forget what it was. But you'd go on and you'd have this conversation, post this conversation. And I remember being part of that really, really dumb conversation about IFT or IIFT, which is really, God, that was beyond. Oh my God. The Germans have a perfect word for it. It's just bescheuert. It's just so ridiculously dumb. And then the other dumb one was black SS or no black SS.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I didn't know that the color black was that special, but whatever, So yeah, I did my part of aimless, debate.
In fact, I've just realised who you are, because your sort of name here is von Clausewitz, was of course on Game Squad. I recognise that name, but I didn't know it was you.
That's me. Yeah, exactly. Von Clausewitz himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad.
Real Clausewitz on Game Squad. I'm kind of disappointed. It's just chance,
So yeah. And I don't know if this is true with you guys. I know I'm the one who's supposed to be interviewed here, but was it also the same way for you guys? Like ASL also, I have to say, carried me through some lean times. I mean, some of which I've described to you. When I was at the University of California, Irvine, that's where I did my master's and PhD. When I was writing my dissertation, you get some serious writer's block along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways to deal with that was to play a scenario, not a scenario of great length, mind you, but some ASL is better than no ASL, and that helped,
I think
psychologically.
I think it does for me a little bit. I think it's because it's what I do when I'm almost happiest when I'm playing ASL. It's kind of, that's when I'm myself. The rest of the time I have problems and worries, and I've got these things to do, and then it's
exactly. And you meet such interesting people, And one thing I really treasure about the game, particularly in this political environment, is that I can, on Facebook or wherever, I can spend 5 or 10 minutes debating some other ASL friend or something about gun control or the war in Ukraine or whatever, but then we just turn around and we talk about the game like we're not enemies or anything like that, and I really appreciate that maturity. It's exceedingly rare these days, unfortunately, in this very polarized environment.
Yeah. Martin and I both went through some tricky divorces, and one each. There wasn't more than one, but but ASL was absolutely, it was there for us. We were able to sort of take your mind off it a little bit. I'm not saying it caused the divorces, but it was kind of it was there, and it was always like Martin says, you can be yourself and you can just play a little bit.
Absolutely.
And so it's
absolutely. And when you're with a friend, when you're with a person who is not only an opponent but also a friend.
Yep.
It's really funny because you can be in the middle of the prep fire phase and then mention something that has nothing to do with, squad leader, and talk about that for, 10 or 15 minutes. And then you're like, okay, this 467 here is going to, do this and that, and just so you can just switch kind of seamlessly
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, with someone who's a true friend and an opponent, it's great.
Yeah, it's oddly cooperative, isn't it? In fact, you're chatting all the time about the game. You're not stopping to talk about something else. You know, it's, I'm going to fire from here, or I'm going to move. Oh, hang on a second, I want to think about whether I'm going to take a shot. It's
That's
so cooperative.
that's an excellent point. One thing that is very typical for my opponents and myself is I'll point something out, even though it doesn't benefit me. Even though it, you know, in that sense too, it's cooperative. You know, I was playing Chad. I was playing Chad today. We were playing one of the ones, the one after play ball. What's it called? I forget what it's not fratricidal fighting. The one after fratricidal fighting. But anyway, a very old squad leader scenario, and you know it was rally phase, and you know he'd forgotten to pick up a machine gun in a location where he had eliminated my guys, and I said, "Oh, you know, you might want to pick that up." You know, and of course he wanted to pick it up. You know, and you know that's also a good exercise, especially when you're young, of getting over yourself and not investing too much of your ego in the game. You know, of course you want to win and stuff like that, but you don't want to win on cheese. You know, stuff like that. And you would also hope that your friend would also point things out to you if you forget a sniper roll or something like that. You know, because as a wise man once remarked, it's a complex game. You know, there are a lot of things to think about, and a lot of times your attention is here, and you miss something that's obvious right here. You know, so
I think it's fair when you get an opponent who'll point out obvious mistakes. In fact, Dave did it today. I was about to take a shot from a hill, wasn't I, to a guy moving in, I thought open ground, but it went through an orchard. Of course, the other side was completely blocked, and I couldn't see it because there's a counter on the orchard, of course. But Dave pointed out, so, well, you know, you sure you want to do that because you know you haven't got line of sight. You didn't have to. The
only time where I'm you know, I'm kind of close-lipped about that is a tournament. Only because, but it's, you know, no quarter given or you know, expected. You know, if I make a mistake, I don't blame my opponent for it. But even then, you know, if he does something out of order in the rally phase or he forgot to rally you or something, I'll usually be like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. You know.
You've got quite a good record at tournaments, I think. Is that right? Would you say that?
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, the nor'easter that just finished, I finished second place there.
Okay,
and that's probably my best showing thus far. I think the Chuck of 10 years ago was a much worse player because I would, in Chad's parlance, chase shiny objects. You know, like he could throw out a half squat or something like that, knew I would fire at it, and then, you know, I'd have target selection limits on me, you know. But I guess I'd like to think I wised up somewhere in the interim. You know, so I have my moments, but nothing like Chad. I mean, you know, you've seen his record. He won, you know, Oktoberfest twice. He won Winter Offensive. He's won West Coast Melee. And even those tournaments he didn't win, he placed very, you know, highly a lot of times. And that helps a lot in the play test process because what takes me oftentimes, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to grok, you know, to comprehend is immediately apparent to him. You know, and I'm sort of jealous of him in that sense, but it saves us a lot of time, and he can look at a scenario and we can play just a turn or two and he can say, okay, this is unfair because this side, you know, ABC can do this. And so, you know, the holy grail when you're play testing is you want to break a scenario. And if it's not breakable, then that suggests it's ready for prime time. And that dude will break a scenario. Like, I don't know much, but I can tell you that much. Like, if the scenario is breakable, he'll break it. He'll find the cheese. So, you know, he'll find the sleaze.
How evenly matched are you in terms of it? Does he beat you the majority of the time? Or
I'd say he beats me probably 2/3 of the time.
Okay.
So out of 3 games, I'll win 1. You know, but we're much better matched than we used to be. You
Right.
know, in the old days, I've wised up in my dotage.
And how did he get ahead of you? Like, were you playing similar opponents or?
He started with chess, and I don't know if you've known like chess playing ASL players, but they tend to be awfully good.
Well, I'm the exception to that rule. I play.
Yeah, really? Oh my God! They tend to be awfully good. You know, one of the best players, and it's really too bad he never hit the tournament circuit. Probably the best player I've ever seen is Fritz Tischi in Austria,
Yeah.
and he's the one who rewrote the human wave rules.
Right. Yeah, I know. I recognize the name.
And do you know there's not, as complicated as those rules are, to my knowledge, there's not one erratum.
Wow.
That dude thinks on that, and he's also a master. He's a chess master, and he's also a world ranked shogi master. And shogi is much more complex than chess. I mean, it's Japanese chess,
Right.
where you can take any of your opponent's pieces and introduce it anywhere on the board as your own. So, and this guy just thinks in a different dimension, but he just was, for whatever reason, wasn't interested in tournaments. But yeah, I mean, those are the types of people you meet.
Yeah. So what's the Tennessee scene like at the moment in ASL terms?
Every year, Mike Hershey, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's he's a very known quantity on the ASL tournament circuit. He hosts an event at his very spacious residence near Nashville, which is right in the middle of the state. And it's not really a tournament, and ASL is not the only game, although it's the main game. And it's attracted more and more people every year, which I'm happy to see. I play very, very little face-to-face. It's almost all Vassal because I'm out in the sticks,
Okay. Okay.
As the Germans say, wo Fuchs und Hase sich gute Nacht sagen, where fox and hare say good night to each other. That's out in the sticks in German.
Okay.
German as a German idiom, very common.
Nice. So tell us a bit. How did you start with Hazardous Movement? What prompted that?
That is an awesome question. What happened was we felt that ASL had entered something of a rut. And that is almost everything that was coming out were scenarios of, 4 to 6 turns. The attacker has no time to prep fire. He has to run through the open. If he makes it, he wins. If he loses, if he doesn't, he doesn't, And it just got kind of old for us. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place for that kind of scenario where you're kind of brain dead and you got a couple hours to kill and you don't want to read more than 1 or 2 special rules. And, it's got its time and place. But what we really missed were those old scenarios where each scenario had its own character. And even if you didn't remember the name of the scenario, you remembered something about it. And that's kind of our secret sauce. The Citadel, for example. I'll never forget it. You have these cool ass, armored cupolas, in the city and stuff like that. That is so cool. You love that. Or what's that? There's that other one from Beyond Valor where, the more squads the German exits off the east edge, the less reinforcements that the Russian gets. Those are great little special rules that really add flavor, and you will never confuse that scenario with another one. Mila 18, where all the Jewish partisans get to set up HIP. And they can make mouse holes, and they've got sewer movement and all that. You'll never forget that scenario.
Yeah.
And those scenarios of the type I've described are a dime a dozen now. I think it kind of started with Schwerpunkt But then, a lot of people got onto that bandwagon, and I understand the appeal of it, particularly, as we said, we have responsibilities. We don't have the time we had before, their tournament size. I get all that. But it got to the point where I really couldn't tell one from the other, really. Yeah. And we wanted to see more scenarios, more kind of old school scenarios where you had time to prep fire.
Yeah.
That's important. That's an important part of the game, and it was it's a lot more fun to us that way. Yeah. And so there was one product, and I'm not going to name what it was, but there was one product that was an extreme disappointment for Chad and me that we had been looking forward to for a long time, and after we played 5 scenarios, we quit it. And Chad especially was really up in arms, because that stuff costs money. Mm-hmm. And so a few days later, and this is the middle of COVID, I said, Chad, I designed this scenario here, and it was Born Again. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you want to give this a try? And he's like, well, it can't be any worse than the stuff we've been playing, for the past, he's like, yeah, sure, let's do it, And we played it like 6 times back to back, and we had a blast. Wow. And so I said, it might be time for us to put out our own stuff instead of waiting for other people to do it, So everybody, all of us have our ASL ideal, and I don't mean to put anybody down, but our ideal is scenarios where each one has its own flavor. Mm-hmm. And that's where special rules come in. I mean, special rules should not be gratuitous. If you have a special rule, it should add something to the game. So I do recognize we have a couple scenarios out there that have a number of special rules, but I was really happy to see Dave point out, I believe it was Dave, who pointed out, when you were reading, I think the special rules for Fresh Grist, and saying, okay, it's got a number of special rules, but nothing that's, way out of the ordinary. It's not a paratroop drop at night, during a beach landing or something. Right. Like it's all pretty straightforward, particularly for anybody who's played Red Barricades. Yeah. Which by now is hopefully mostly all of us.
Where do you, or how do you get your ideas historically for scenarios?
We researched them actually pretty well. And both of us have been World War II aficionados, forever. So that wasn't a lot of times I'll start with some kind of terrain that I really like, and then I'll think, okay, what would the World War II equivalent be? And so sometimes I'll do it a little bit backwards like that. And I will say that I did design a couple pretty successful scenarios, maybe 20 years ago or something like that, as part of the West Coast, not West Coast Melee, the Southern California ASL Club. You might remember the Melee packs. Yeah. And so I had one called Worthy Adversary, and that was featured actually at a lot of tournaments. And another one called Tripwire, and then there was another one that I published through the Bunker that was called Fontenay by Day. And that one actually did pretty well too. So that kind of got my confidence up, I guess. But I dropped scenario design for 15 or 20 years, and then during COVID, I was like, let's do this.
And you did Fontenay by Night as well, didn't you?
I did. Uh-huh. Yeah.
My scenario archive tells me everything. I know. I got all all your greatest hits in here.
That's correct. So I wasn't a complete stranger to scenario design. Chad wasn't either, but he submitted his designs to the West Coast, the Southern California ASL Club, and they were rejected, which is hilarious in a way because they're very popular scenarios now, but. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. And this was one way to get it published for sure. Yeah.
So a big success, number one. You are happy with the uptake it's had so far? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. The response?
Yeah, from the first pack.
Hazardous Movement. Oh my God. Chad and I were expecting maybe to sell 50. Mm-hmm. And we ended up selling about 500 or something like that for, the first run. That wasn't too bad. And we both went to Oktoberfest last year, and the retailer who was there, Derek, sold out of Hazardous Movement. And there were a lot of Hazardous Movement scenarios featured in the minis, which we were really happy about. And, it was very, very encouraging when people would approach us and compliment us on, scenarios, etc. So that was very, very encouraging. And we didn't expect the kind of response that we got. And then, another person that you've interviewed on this fine podcast, Joe Leos, or Leoce, as the Italians would say, he invited us to release our second pack at the Albany tournament last year. And it was funny because at first I was like, no, we don't have much time. I have to say no this time. And he was like, come on, Chuck, come on. And I'm like, okay. So we did it, and we got it done in time, and and again, we sold out.
Yeah.
There, which I was extremely encouraging. So yeah, we've been very, very heartened by the response, and it's led us in new directions. As you probably already know, we're releasing the next pack, which thematizes Stalingrad at the 25th annual St. Louis tournament. And this one breaks new ground for us because it is a mini campaign. And so it's a little bit like the Market Garden.
Yeah.
7 scenarios that you had in, I guess it was a 1990 annual or something like that, but with a serious update. Let's put it that way. And so you can play the 7 games in Stalingrad, and Chad designed all of them that take place in Stalingrad. Or you can play what I call the Mega Mini, which is the 7 scenarios in Stalingrad, and then I've got 3 scenarios representing Operation Uranus, Saturn, and Winter Storm, or as the Germans say, Wintergewitter. And then you tally the points at the end, and you see who won the campaign. And so we think this is going to have, and it's very, very simple. I mean, you probably saw the sheet I sent you, where if you win, you get 2 points, plus, if you do this achievement, you get a point. If you do this achievement, you get a point. And so even after you've lost the scenario, you have a real incentives to stay in there, to deny your opponent more points than he deserves. Let's put it that way. So he doesn't get too far ahead of you in the campaign.
Right.
So we think this is really going to have an appeal once people play it, and I think it's really going to have an appeal too, because this is not leaving the Red Barricades map up with 160 squads on it or something like that. These are all scenarios that can be played alone. But why wouldn't you string them together?
Right.
Really, so that's it's. I think it's going to have it's going to be very popular.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Arnhem one actually, but it's actually it's very simple because they're not really connected except that you get points. But it sounds like
you enjoyed what exactly?
The Arnhem.
Arnhem. The
mini
Market Garden.
Whatever the Market Garden. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
I enjoyed that. I think you just got points whether you won or lost. I don't think they had what you're describing. Being able to get additional points even after you've obviously won means that they're kind of more connected in a sense, aren't they? The campaign. Yeah.
Yes.
And is
absolutely.
there any,
and it has that feel.
Is there any follow-ons from the first scenario to the second one, in terms of, can it alter the composition of the units or anything like that, or are they absolutely standalone?
That it can't. But chronologically, or as we literary people would say, diegetically, like within the story, you can read the history and the aftermath, and they all connect.
Right. Yeah. Right.
In that sense, and it's just so fun because, for example, let's say that you've probably won the scenario. We're on the last 2 game turns, but I look on my card and I get an achievement point if I kill your 9-2 leader and your hero. Guess what I'm doing? Those guys are marked men, right? So it's really, really funny that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think people are really going to like it. And one of the things that, as you remarked in your first podcast on HazMo, that makes HazMo different. There are a lot of things that make us different, but one of the things that make us different is that we always publish a free download. So you can test the waters before deciding whether or not to take a plunge. And that's really important for us. And it also shows, we hope it shows, confidence in the product. Like, we really believe in this. We're not trying to hoodwink anybody.
And how did you pick? How did you pick which one you gave away for free? Was it the best one, the worst one? How do you?
No, definitely not the worst one, but something that we think would appeal to the widest number of people. So it wasn't necessarily the one that we considered the most fun. Like, for example, in the pack one scenario that's done extremely well, of course, is kids these days. With the Hitler Youth, ambushing the British and stuff. We had great fun with that scenario, but our favorite one was Seaside Retreat. Like, we played Seaside Retreat 8 times back to back before sending it out to the play testers, and we play tested the what out of that thing. But long past the point where we'd gotten the kinks out, we were just playing for fun. But we don't think that one would have the same appeal as kids these days, and I think the Roar bears that out.
Right. Because arguably, like, when we flicked through the pack and we liked the look of the Churchill's one, and we thought that looks like a good fun. And I was surprised you didn't go with that one as a free one, but I thought it wouldn't have been representative of the pack itself. And
exactly, you got it. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah, we're trying to do something different, and we're trying to communicate that implicitly, that you're dealing with a different kind of third-party producer here. And if you're looking for scenarios that are, all armor and 4 turns, and, with sniper numbers of 6 and stuff like that, then this is probably not your cup of tea.
It's been brilliant from my point of view in terms of saying, okay, the next time we play face-to-face, like when we're looking for like a nice day's scenario, we've almost got a pack there where 8 out of 10 of them are really, kind of meaty scenarios. But they're all playable. They're not, some of them that, the monster scenario is just too much for me, at least. But these do seem playable. And, I gave you guys a bit of a hard time on the layout of the first pack, but having seen the second pack, much better. I thought, it looks like a really, nice pack. And
that was me not being paranoid anymore and saying, okay, we can do counter art. And my son did the counter art, and also thanks to Rodney Kinney for allowing us to use the Vassal counter art. And we also try, another thing that's different about HazMo is we try and improve each time. We don't take our clientele or customers rather, for granted, because we ourselves are ASL consumers. We know what it feels like to be ripped off. And we're not out to rip anybody off,
right.
So it's just the opposite. We, when we get feedback, the main complaint about the first pack was no counter art. And also what you mentioned very legitimately about, some of the 2-page scenarios where the second page was on the back. And so by the time we got to pack 2, we had counter art and the second page was no longer on the back. And then, one constructive criticism that someone offered me on Facebook was, well, you've got the counter art, that's great, but when it comes to the 5/8 counters, sometimes it's not immediately recognizable what that is.
Yeah, I couldn't find it today.
So, and so for guess what we did for the third pack? Now for the third pack, and I think we're the only ones that do this, every 5/8 counter has the nomenclature above the counter.
Right.
So it's you can immediately find it in the H rules. And so, the Japanese company Toyota has a slogan, and in English it means constant improvement. And I've kind of adopted that for us as well. And we also want to take it in new directions. Everyone who subscribes to the website, they don't even have to buy anything. Just subscribe to the website. We sent them a 50-page, as you saw, the HazMo Horizon, which is I thought it was a great newsletter by some of the really leading lights in the hobby. and people like Jim Bishop or Carl Noguera, and so we really want to be inclusive. It's not just about Chad and me, and we're about to take that in a whole different direction now because we have a scenario design contest where anyone can upload their scenario design and anonymously, and it goes to a third party, and the third party sends it to us. And so we don't know who, this is not, oh, you're friends with me, so I'm going to publish your scenario. I'll reject my own brother's scenario, if it sucks, and so that's going to take us in a new direction, and that it's going to be a magazine much along the lines of the old annual, and it's going to have 10 or 12 scenarios in there, and maybe 3 or 4 articles, and it's going to be in a magazine format.
Nice.
And so that's in addition to the HazMo Horizon, and that's in addition to the HazMo packs, and that's going to be called Incoming.
Okay.
So Incoming is going to be like a HazMo subsidiary.
I can't believe you didn't go with the CC counter with Chad and Chuck and some sort of CC counter there, but that's a free bit of consultancy for you,
I don't know. We're not that cheeky. I don't know.
So would you recommend a scenario for us? So we're going to meet up we want a day, like a solid day. From one of your packs that you think we'd enjoy. A lot of fun.
Oh boy, that's the boy. I think you should try Seaside Retreat.
Okay.
That one, and the general conventional wisdom on that one is that it's a little harder on the attacker, a little bit. It's absolutely winnable for the attacker, but it's the onus is on the attacker. I'd say maybe 55-45. So whoever among you is the better attacker should take the attack on that one.
Yeah.
But I've everyone who's ever played that has commented about how fun it is, and it was our favorite as well.
Yeah.
So I can't not recommend that one. But the other one you scoped out, Great Vengeance, even though it might not be an all-day scenario, that's one hell of a wild ride too.
Yeah. So the flamethrowers and
with the flame, exactly. And the one special rule you pointed out, I had to laugh about that one, but it really makes it special. Is anybody who is adjacent to a hex where the flamethrower has scored a K or KIA result the first time only, has to take a morale check, and I can't imagine anything more realistic than that.
Yeah.
If I just saw like a whole bunch of guys, microwaved, like 40 meters from me, that's going to be a significant emotional experience.
Did that come from the reference material, or was that just a bit of flavor that you guys wanted to add?
That was a bit of flavor.
Okay.
That was us doing Flav.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it also comes from the fact that whenever you read about the Churchill, they talk about how terrified the Germans were of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Churchill crocodile.
Yeah.
That was a terrifying instrument of war. And so I thought, well, we could introduce that here, and it would dissuade the defender from putting all his guys in the church.
I mean, you don't think that ASL players are scared enough of flamethrowers as it is?
I know. Well, yeah, but this one, you have to get the church in P3. That's sad. I remember the hex. But you have to get the church in order to win the scenario.
Right.
And so there's an inclination on the part of some defenders, and the type of defenders I'm talking about. They don't care how cheesy it is, they'll do it in order to win,
deploy,
and put all their guys in the church. Yeah, but in that scenario, that'd be like the dumbest thing you could possibly do.
Okay.
Because that croc fires on the 36 table, if I'm not mistaken, and so a K slash is a 7. So you'd be kind of ill-advised to put all your eggs in one basket.
I read recently that it was so traumatic to even use that Churchill against human beings that the crews were reluctant to actually. The effect of it was a morale effect. The Germans would surrender rather than, and the British controllers would be happy for that to be what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people forget too that I forget what percent of soldiers they tested, the army tested, and this is in the United States, but it probably was not that different in Britain, and found that, I mean, it was a large number. Had been like 30% or something. Like, it was a large minority. I can look it up pretty easily. That could not fire on a human being. Like, that's something you had to be battle hardened to do. It's not something that comes naturally.
Yeah.
To people. And so you can only imagine what it was for somebody who had to fire a flamethrower or something like that and really witness that kind of suffering and know that they're responsible for it. You know, I mean, I know we're getting into the weeds here, but that was kind of the reason for that rule.
Yeah.
You know, but it adds some spice.
So I've got to say, like, the balance of your scenarios has been fantastic. I mean, we've looked and we've made some comments already, and it's obviously early days for many of them, but it's still, there's nothing that we've come across that looks wildly imbalanced or anything like that. How are you going to keep that up with, you know,
that's all Chad.
Yeah.
That's all Chad. I tell Chad to take his vitamins, you know, and get plenty of sleep and stuff like that, because, you know, God forbid if something happened to him, that would be HazMo.
Yeah.
You know, because he can grok that balance much better than I can.
Right.
You know, if I'm given 5 times the amount of time, maybe I can do it. But he can just look at it and be like, this is unbalanced, you know, or this is balanced. And 90% of the time he's right. Every once in a while he'll be surprised. But and I think it takes an elite player really to ensure that the scenario isn't broken.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to have 2 intermediate players playing each other. That's wonderful, and you can learn something from it, but it won't tell you whether the scenario is broken or not.
Right.
You need people who've been playing, you know, for 30 years plus for that. I think so.
Do you have difficulty finding play testers?
No, actually. In fact, people have volunteered, and that's really, really heartening. I'm going to give a shout out to a couple people, if that's okay. But, you know, all these people have, you know, 30 plus years or close to it, if not. Matt Romey, Dan Steinhagen, Francois Boudreguin, Chad Cummins, Eero Verisari, Mikko Lucari, Craig Huliston is very good player, is play testing for us for this coming pack. Rich Domovich, same thing. Michael Hershey, who I mentioned already in Nashville. You know, these are people who have played the game for a long time. So while we're all human, we all make mistakes, et cetera, we're not going to miss a lot. And I think that's also borne out by our errata. If you go to our Q&A in errata, there's very little errata. I think there were 3 or 4 in the first pack, and one of them was, you know, the balance provision. You know, and then the second pack there were 2. You know, and these are scenarios with a lot of moving parts, as you know.
Yeah.
And one thing that we feel very strongly about is that if people are going to pay good money for your product, then you would better be there when it comes to customer support. And as you know, there are third parties out there who no longer feel it's incumbent upon them to provide anything in the way of Q&A or errata. And we think that's wrong. And people can submit their questions, you know, to Hazardous Movement at yahoo.com, which comes to me, and they get an answer, you know, within 24 hours, a lot of times within 1 hour, to be honest with you, right? Because it pops up while I'm at the computer doing whatever. And so we really offer incomparable player support. And if somebody does find an erratum, that goes up there on the website right away. Yeah. You know, you don't have to wait 6 months for it to, you know, to be addressed. And we're proud of that. And that's part of what you're paying for, you know.
So are you going to carry on with the Hazardous Movement and the incoming kind of separately, or are they going to merge, or how's that going to work?
It's going to be separate.
Okay.
But, you know, we want to be inclusive, and even people who are not scenario designers, we believe everybody has something to offer. And I think you saw that from the variety of articles included in the HazMo Horizon, which we're going to publish every March. You can write an article about, you know, what to eat when you go to a tournament, we'll publish it. Anything that's even like tangentially, ASL related, we'll publish it. Because we're all in this together. And I don't know if you saw my heartfelt appeal at the end of the HazMo Horizon, but a lot of times we look around and we see that we're not getting younger, and some of us have passed away. Yesterday came the very sad news that Gary Trezza had passed on, etc. And there's a strong inclination to kind of shrug your shoulders and say, well, this niche hobby is going the way of the dodo. And I'm not there yet. I think that this can be a golden age of the hobby if we make it one. And I came up with 3 suggestions, that if we all follow them, I think the best days of ASL can be ahead of us. I think one was, try and go to at least one tournament. And another one was to, watch podcasts like yours and get involved.
Yep.
Even if it's just liking and commenting and stuff like that, because a lot of us, only have a friend or two, that we can play face to face with, but there's a whole, world of ASL players out there.
Yep.
And we have this wonderful gift of the interwebs, the inner tubes, the internet, to that can connect us. And so that was another suggestion. I forgot what my third suggestion was.
It was just as good, I'm sure. Just as
it
good.
couldn't have been that good.
It's very, very good.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite scenario that you've played?
Oh, in Squad Leader ever?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there's one. I hope Ben Jones is you know him, right?
We do know Ben, yeah.
Yeah, there's the knave I was talking about, the scoundrel. He's in France now, hiding away like Oscar Wilde.
He was running a scuba diving course, wasn't he, for a while?
That's right. That's right.
South Africa, I think.
That's the cover story anyway. I've always suspected he was in the mob, but when I was in Germany, I was in Germany for a dissertation fellowship for a year, and this is really in the beginnings of Vassal. This would have been 2000, the year 2001, I guess, 2001, 2002. And he and I played quite a bit during that year for whatever reason. I even went over to the UK and visited him and stuff like that. We had a great time. But we played an old one from On All Fronts that was later picked up by the parent company, and it's called the Führer's Fireman.
Okay, we heard it.
Yeah, and you know that it must be a good scenario if I lost it, and I still think it was one of the best scenarios ever. And so Ben and I we played the Führer's Fireman every day for what was it, Ben, like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, and I could hardly sleep because I was thinking, oh man, God, where am I going to put that, Joseph Stalin tank, whatever, So he ended up winning, but we had a blast. That one was really unforgettable.
It's a lot of fun playing Ben, isn't it? He's he laughs, he jokes a lot. It's
oh yeah. And no, it
as well, yeah.
No, it's true. And you have to be prepared to be abused. But he respects somebody who gives as good as he gets.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So I look forward to playing Ben again. And what's even funnier is we found each other during COVID. Again, one of us found the other one I remember it was on Vassal, and he used to go by the name Benjamin or something like that.
Yep.
And I'm like, this isn't Ben Jones, is it? And he's like the one and only, So he invited me to come visit him in France, and that'd be wonderful. But great guy, and I'm glad he's still playing, and I'm glad we found each other again after 20 years. I mean, this is the kind of crazy stuff that happens in this hobby.
It's the ASL love story that we want to hear.
Oh, the ASL love story, yeah, exactly. Although I have to say he's not my type.
He's not anyone's type.
Not my type. Yeah, exactly. The hygiene that was probably the decisive factor. I'm just kidding, Ben. I'm just kidding. All right.
So you've got a pack 4 coming out as well, I believe.
Yeah. Pack 4, yeah, and so Pack 4 is I don't know if you can put it up on the. I sent you the image of the front.
Yep.
That, if you can put it up there, but I love that image, by the way. But it's called Overlord, and it's going to do the same thing that it's going to be a mini campaign as well, a mini campaign and a mega mini campaign.
Okay.
And you know how each of the Stalingrad scenarios in this pack is named after a Pink Floyd song from The Wall. Chad and I are huge fans of The Wall. With the other ones are called like Empty Spaces and Comfortably Numb. The funniest one, the biggest scenario in the third pack is called The Happiest Days of Our Lives, which is really very dark humor, almost morbid humor, because it really depicts like the climactic battle of the Stalingrad campaign. But anyway, the fourth one is going to thematize Operation Overlord. And the way I've conceived it, each scenario is going to be named after one of the subsidiary operations. So one's going to be called Goodwood. One's going to be called Coronet. These little, operations.
Okay.
One's called Cobra.
Okay.
So
that's going to come out December. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And number 3 is already out, or is coming out in July?
Number 3 is going to come out on July 27th.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
With much fanfare.
Yeah.
In St. Louis.
Okay.
You all are invited.
We'll get out there. We will get out there, Martin. When you're free, we'll do it.
I'd love to get a Vassal game together sometime against one or both of you. It'd be a lot of fun.
We'll do that. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Martin's teaching schedule and your teaching schedule seems about the same these days.
What do you teach?
English to sort of, we call them secondary school pupils, so 11 to 16-year-olds.
Wow, you're a grizzled veteran. You're looking pretty good for somebody who's been at the front for that long. Oh boy, I couldn't do that, man.
Martin's 26.
Chalked off me.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I couldn't do it. I have a hard enough time with these jokers here.
Yeah.
But
only 6 more weeks to go for me, so I'm packing it all in 6 weeks and dedicating myself to advanced squad leader.
Good. There are worse things to dedicate oneself to.
Absolutely.
So we need more big scenarios. That's what we need from you.
There'll be no lack of those.
I do.
Have you guys designed any scenarios before?
Yes, we've done a couple. Yeah. So for the deluxe pack, the deluxe pack that then Lafrantiere put out, Martin, I think you did. Was it 1 or 2? Scraggy.
I did one. Yes, yeah,
Scraggy, and I did a couple.
That's awesome.
So it's hard work.
We also did the Monkeys with Typewriters competition one year. We both did one for that, and we got feedback and stuff, which was quite fun. It's something we wanted to have a go at. But it's much harder than you think, isn't it? When you start getting great idea, you start getting into it. It's a very time-consuming and difficult thing to do.
Yeah, if you're doing it right. Yeah. If you're doing it. For me, the hardest step is always, this is funny, the hardest step is finding the right map.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once I find the right map, everything else falls into place. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you probably teach your students about writing an outline, before they write an essay, so that everything's coherent. Yeah. It's kind of like that. If you have a good enough outline, everything else, the paper almost writes itself. Yeah. And it's, for me, the outline for a squad leader is the terrain. If I've picked the right terrain, because that also stimulates my imagination, and then the ideas just come. But boy, I'm not kidding, a lot of times I'll spend, again, an inordinate amount of time, a week or two, trying to find just the right terrain. Mm-hmm. But once I've found it, boom, then it all comes pretty quickly. But that's not necessarily the experience of every person. Another person might have, the hard part might be the OB.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. But terrain is tough for me. And another thing that I do, which is funny, is I will go on Google Earth. And because of Google Earth, that very first scenario, Born Again, which takes place in Ortona, Italy, I looked at Ortona, and then I looked at aerial photographs from World War II. and I was going through boards and everything like that, and I got to board 60, and I'm like, that's the one. That's where it's got to take place, you know. And then after that, it came very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you know, as they say in advertisements or advertisements, as you guys would say on television here, your mileage may vary. You know, all the car advertisements.
Yeah.
So
It's very good. Very good.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah,
let me ask you this. If I were to go to a UK tournament, which one would you most recommend and why?
Go on,
God,
Martin.
it's a bit political, this is, isn't it? Because we know all the tournament directions in the UK. they've all got their strengths.
Sure.
So there's is it three?
I think my absolute favourite and is Double One, partly because it's so close to me. It's only about a drive.
Is that in June or July, something like that?
It's coming up very soon. Yeah, just 3 or 4 weeks or something.
Yeah,
and is that in London or where's that?
It's not. No, it's in East Anglia, so it's all the little bottom that sticks out at the
oh wow
inside of Britain, and it's quite a rural place, so it's really lovely in the summer, and it's in the grounds of a college that teaches gardening and agriculture, so it's
that's awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic. But only about an hour away from London though, so not from an international travel point of view, it's effectively London. We've got 2 great tournaments in Blackpool, and they'd be a lot of people's favourites, I think, because we've used that hotel for centuries, for the ASL tournament. Real, the blood of ASL players is soaked into the players.
That's hilarious. One thing I forgot to mention, I neglected to mention, was we're planning in any case, in the summer of 2024, we're going to have the first HazMo tournament.
Wow.
And it's going to be in our hometown of San Diego, California.
Oh, wow.
So that if you wanted to bring the wife and or kids, they'd have something to do.
Okay.
And it's not like take them out to Martin or this other godforsaken place you mentioned. I have to I'm laughing because Martin started as an agriculture, really a college of agriculture, and it's still probably the largest department here.
Yeah.
So it's out in the sticks.
Yeah.
Well, Writtle is very similar to that in Double One. That's an agricultural college. So yeah, but it's a very nice grounds.
It was remote.
Oh, I'll bet it's awesome. Yeah. There's that new airline. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's an Icelandic airline called Play.
No.
And it just came out, and their angle on the market is that you can fly across the Atlantic for like $175.
Wow.
That's incredible. Yeah. And so and they go, it's kind of like German Wings, or these kind of smaller airlines on the continent, on the European continent, where you can fly Berlin to London for pennies on the dollar practically. And I don't know how they make a profit, but that's not my problem. They always go through Reykjavik. Yeah. And so if they're still around, that makes attending British tournaments actually feasible for this humanities professor.
Excellent. Well, we have a.
Will there be a hotel in San Diego? Is that where you're going to hope?
Yeah, we haven't decided which one or anything like that, but it's going to be a nice hotel. Not the Four Seasons, but it's not going to be Motel 6 either.
And do you have a month in mind for?
We were thinking August.
Okay, wow, it's going to be warm.
Well, it is going to be warm, but that's kind of cool because you can go to the beach and you can go out to we can all display our bodies in all its middle-aged glory.
We'll be the only people that go to San Diego and come back paler than when we left.
Don't you go reinforcing any stereotypes about British people. Okay? I should forbid you to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chuck, thank you very much for being on with us. Carry on the great work with HazMo. I think it's been great to see a new publication come along.
Thank you so much, and please stay in touch. Let us know what you liked or didn't like. We've got thick skins. So if you've got suggestions for improvement, we're always looking to improve. And I'm going to continue to promote this fine podcast. I'm really glad that you're here. I'm really glad to see almost 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
That's really good. For ASL, it's amazing. That's great. So please keep up the good work. And look forward to talking to you again. Hopefully, throwing dice at each other at some point.
Yeah.
All right.
You've kindly given away a pack as well that we're gonna give away to a patron as well. So thank you.
Absolutely, a HazMo pack 2, if that's okay.
Of course it is. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So just give me that address and I'll send it to you. And
we'll figure out who
we'll give it to some deserving soul.
Perfect. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Well, we're halfway through one of the scenarios from Pack 2 as well.
Was it Sticks and Stones?
Sticks and Stones, yep, is what we're playing at the moment. So,
what do you think so far?
2 or 3 turns in, finely balanced at the moment.
Yeah, finely balanced.
Good.
Yeah.
That one usually comes down to the last game turn.
Yeah.
And the defender has to think about what level he's on, because if he's on level 1 anywhere, whether in a building or on the hill or something like that, that is when you want to use that dynamite.
Yeah.
Rock roll.
I've had a dynamite stick thrown at me already.
You can make the difference, actually.
Yeah.
So hope you guys have a great time with that. That's a Chad Cummins design, and it's a really good one. We're hoping to see that at a lot of tournaments.
Enjoying it. We'll go through it, won't we, with this this game? Yes.
Exactly. And Fresh Grist, was that you or was that Chad?
That was me.
That was you. Okay. All right. We had that one as well. So that was, we enjoyed both.
Oh,
so.
Good. Okay. And don't forget, what was my suggestion for the all-day one?
We've got it. Seaside Resort.
Seaside Retreat.
Yeah, we've got it.
And whoever's the better attacker should attack.
All right, we'll have an argument about that. Well, Dave always needs a bit of help. We'll
both fight to defend.
I know one of you. I think it's Dave, likes attacking fortifications.
No.
Right, and there are a few fortifications in that one.
I like defending fortifications.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, you're
bad about fortifications. From the start.
I stumble into every one of Martin's traps. I just stumble into it.
Well, that one's great because it has the city, and then it has a huge hill that overlooks the city of Toulon, which again comes from Google Maps. But the attacker has a mobile force of 7 or 8 half tracks and elite troops that can rush across that hill and get to the back of that city as an option. So it's not like you're just going against roadblock backed up by pillbox, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. You can short circuit that if you do it right. And so you can put the odds in your favor as the attacker. Right. So that one, I think you'll really enjoy.
That sounds like a cup of tea, that attack.
It's interesting you say that.
Okay, good.
Because it's hard to, when you look at the scenario card, you don't necessarily, acknowledge that it's not going to be that kind of trek through all the fortifications. So it's good you say that.
If you set it up, you'll see.
Perfect.
You'll see.
Okay.
But thanks so much, guys. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely.
And if one or both of you would be interested in authoring an article for the next HazMo Horizon, I mean, that's, March of next year, maybe even just about this podcast or something like that, we would be deeply in your debt.
Of course we'll do something for you. Yeah, of course. No problems.
Awesome. Well, I'll send you that. I'll send you that pack.
Thank you very much, Chuck.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Enjoy the
it.
scenario.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Ed.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Cheers.
So excellent chat with Chuck. We really appreciate him coming on, and it was lovely to have a good chat to him. And it's another opponent for us to play as well.
Yep.
As per Chuck's request of us figuring out someone to give our pack away to, he's kindly donated that to someone. So patrons, if you want to be involved in getting a copy for free, either in the YouTube comments, let us know your favourite Pink Floyd song, or let us know your preference between Red Factories and Croix de Guerre. Obviously vote on the Game Squad forum, which is where we'll put the poll. But let us know one of those two, and let us know you're a patron and we'll recognise you, and we'll pick one randomly next time. So you've got probably a week, because we're going to probably do the next episode next week, I think, probably because we've got only a little bit more to do of the game that we're playing to finish off.
Yeah.
All right. Other than that, Martin.
In patrons.
Yeah. Your semi-final is halfway through for your play by mail game.
About halfway through on the play by email tournament. Yeah. And the other tournament's finished, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're going to get round 2 of that. We're going to announce as well next week. Good stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Enjoy yourself in Norfolk.
I will do. Thank you.
And the rest of you enjoy yourselves wherever you are.
Absolutely enjoy. Okay. Take care then. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
I helped playtest Fortress Casino and the first SS pack, a couple other things, High Ground, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
I was just a lad, as you guys say.
We'll get into that. We'll get into it. A young lad. Yeah.
I don't know my lads from my blokes from my knaves, so you're gonna have to school me in my own. We're separated by a common language.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.